Hey guys, what's up? My name is Bri and welcome to my channel. So if you are all new here, hello, my name is Bri, nice to meet you. I am a professional actor now based out of Orlando, but I was previously based out of the New York tri-state area from about the time I graduated college until the end of 2019. But as you can tell by the title of this video, I am going to be breaking down different tips on how to break into the entertainment industry, specifically in the New York tri-state area. This is going to be a two-part series, so this is the first part where I'm going to break down tips for people that are auditioning in New York, and I'm going to do another video probably in like a couple weeks breaking down tips for people if you are in the Orlando area. I think this video will be really great for someone if you just graduated from a BFA program, maybe in 2020, where then there was no theater, so you really couldn't audition for anything right after you graduated, or maybe if you're about to graduate in 2021, so you need to kind of learn how to break into whatever industry you're going to go into, or even if you've been graduated for a while and have been auditioning but you haven't really found the success you're looking for. I think these tips are going to be really helpful for you, so definitely make sure to continue watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on my latest content, so you know when those videos post, and also when I post any other content as well. It's always Thursdays at 6 p.m. As I said, this is going to be a two-part series. I was going to do it in one video, but I realized that, the two industries in those locations are very different from each other, which I've already made a video describing the differences and similarities in auditions in both of those cities, so you can click the link up here. But today I'm going to focus on New York. I first started out in New York from the time I graduated college, which was in May of 2018, up until December of 2019, so it's about a year and a half time. And within that year and a half, I worked for 7 different companies, doing different performance jobs, gigs, different TV film stuff, commercials, theme park, you name it, like all that type of stuff. So I worked for a lot of different companies within that time and got to learn a lot about that audition scene and kind of what works, what doesn't, and got to develop all these tips. So I'm going to give them to you today. But without further ado, let's get started. So I have written down a nice little set of notes. Also, per my mother's request, she would like me to not touch my hair during my videos, so I'm going to be trying to not touch my hair, but no promises. My first tip is to understand who you are and what you bring to the table. Now, this may sound kind of like obvious, but I think that people get really lost in what the industry is looking for and not really understanding who they are as a person and what they can bring to the table, if that makes sense. So I think it's important to understand what your strengths are and kind of play to your strengths in auditions, and also understanding what your weaknesses are and always working to improve those weaknesses to eventually make them strengths. Because I think once you understand that, you're able to go to auditions and audition for companies that are looking for people like you, and they're looking for people with those strengths, and that's how you're ultimately going to find a lot of success. So when I was auditioning in New York, I really think I started to understand my strengths and weaknesses. I knew that ability-wise, I wasn't the best singer. I was a good singer, but I wasn't a great singer, if that makes sense. So I would go into singer calls and I knew I probably wasn't the best singer there, but what I did have over everyone else was that I looked like a dancer. What would happen ultimately is I would go into a singer's call, do my song, I'd be like good, but I'm not like great, and I wouldn't like blow them away. But basically they look at me and they say, oh, well, she looks like a dancer. I bet she can dance really well, so let's move her on to the dance call and call me back. So basically they moved me on to the dance call, which is ultimately a mover's call, which is basically they're gonna call back singers and not give them a crazy hard combination, but they're just gonna see how they move and maybe throw in a pirouette or a leap or two at the end. I knew I had better dance abilities than some of the people in the room, because some people were just great singers and they really didn't think of themselves as dancers, and I really thought of myself as a good all-around performer. So I would go into the dance call, do fairly well, and that would get me recognized and remembered by those casting teams and ultimately gave me a lot of success. So that was something personally for me that I knew was a strength I played to a lot. But it also goes into that I really think you need to find the companies, again, that are looking for people like you. So another trick I would use in that is I just started to learn early on that the family entertainment industry was where I really gravitated towards and was an industry that really looked for people like me, which is ultimately why I moved to Orlando. But while I was still in New York, I auditioned for a lot of companies that focused in the family entertainment industry, because that industry looks for a lot of like young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed type of people. Usually they want all-around good performers doing a lot of different skills, and have the stamina to be able to do high-intensity shows for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And working with kids, which is something I really loved. So those type of companies gave me a lot of success, and I kind of focused my auditions on those types of companies because I knew that I was most likely gonna get called back for them, and they were most likely looking for people that were just like me. My tip number 2 is to audition for everything. And when I say everything, I mean like every type of project. Don't just go for Broadway, don't just go for equity roles, don't just go for national tours, which I think is a big problem that a lot of people make when they first move to New York. I think they move to the big city, they're so excited, they know, okay, well, if I want to be on Broadway, well, I have to be in equity and I have to audition for all these Broadway shows and blah, 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 blah. But I mean, realistically, think about it. Where did those Broadway performers start out? They probably started in regional theater. Where do people in regional theater start out? They probably start out in summer stock and in non-union shows and cruise ships and theme parks and things like that. So they're all starting from the bottom. Normally, I mean, is there those crazy success stories where people audition for Broadway once, book it, and like their life is set for the rest of eternity? Yeah. But for the majority of people, that usually doesn't happen. So my biggest tip is to start, this doesn't sound good, but like start from the bottom and work your way up. I auditioned, I think, for one Broadway show ever, and that was Mean Girls, when they were casting the national tour and Broadway at the same time, which I only did like the dancer call anyway. But regardless, I really never auditioned for Broadway because one, I wasn't really sure if Broadway was really what I wanted to do, but also I wasn't fit for Broadway. I knew I cannot dance as good as those girls, I cannot sing as good as those girls, and I don't have the resume to support those types of jobs anyway. So it was honestly just a waste of my time to go there. And I didn't audition for equity stuff that much either. I mean, I would from time to time, but equity has so many other rules you have to follow for EPAs and ECCs and lists and all that type of stuff that it ultimately was a waste of time in my eyes to go there, put my name on a list, sit there for hours and possibly not even get seen. I was like, that's not worth my time. So what I would do is go for a lot of non-union jobs or things that non-union and equity could audition for, but we're at the same playing field. It wasn't that equity got like to audition first or anything like that. So that was a lot of cruise ships and theme parks and family entertainment and just like non-union summer stock shows and stuff like that. Which, do they pay as good as equity stuff? No, absolutely not. But it's a way to start out, and a lot of these non-union companies do have a big name in the industry, and there's stuff where a lot of people have started and worked their way up. So I think start at the bottom, work your way up, get those connections, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and just kind of get your foot in the door. And you never know who knows who, and people move places all the time. My next tip is to be strategic and be prepared. I cannot explain how much you need to be prepared in New York, because they will trample you like a stampede of antelope. Like, luckily in New York, there's usually a lot of auditions happening every day, which is very different from Orlando. But usually there's multiple auditions going on at multiple different studios. So people are kind of have to pick and choose where they want to go. Or basically, I would look at the breakdown, see what was auditioning all on one day, and think to myself, where do I think everyone is going to want to go? If it's like, oh, this Broadway show is auditioning today, or this national tour, or oh, Hairspray is auditioning, everyone's gonna go to Hairspray. So I would normally go to the other shows that I thought weren't gonna be as popular, because one, there's less people auditioning, they then have more time to spend with you in the room, so they want to hear you sing a second song, or just spend more time getting to know you. That's just more of a connection you're making, and more likely that you're gonna stick in their heads, and that they're gonna remember you and want to call you back. So I would normally do that a lot. Also, because I really don't want to wait around for hours to get seen like the last possible minute and just get like shoved in and out of the room. Just kind of like put yourself in the minds of every other actor and think where they're gonna go, and go like the complete opposite way. My other tip with being prepared is to be prepared to change up your material last minute. So if you need to bring in a 16-bar cut, always have a second option with you, have a contrasting option, be able to cut that cut down to 8 bars, because that has happened a lot, that they have a lot of people at the call. They say, hey, we just don't have enough time to see everyone with 16 bars, so we're gonna cut down to 8 bars so we have time to see everyone today. So definitely be prepared to do that, or have a song that is good for 8 bars that you can pull out of anywhere and are fully prepared to do on the spot. I would also recommend making an audition spreadsheet or having an audition journal. This is something a lot of people do in New York, and they're all different. They all write down different things, but I do think it's pretty helpful. I used an audition spreadsheet on Excel, which I didn't go nearly as in-depth as some people did, but I basically wrote down what I thought was going to be helpful for me. So what I would do is I wrote down the company I auditioned for. I then wrote down if they took an unofficial list or not, if they typed, like different things like that. And then wrote down basically random comments about that audition day. So maybe, did they give callbacks in the room? Did they cut down to 8 bars? Did they have a dance call that day? Did they ask for anything else in the room? Stuff like that, just so that if I'm auditioning for that show the next year in the future, I can look back to that spreadsheet and kind of be prepared as to what they're probably gonna do again or how their audition is gonna be run. My last tip for this video is to make connections. It's probably one of the most important tips I have today, because I cannot tell you how important making connections is in not only New York, but in this industry in general. Connections are everything. I think in my entire professional career, probably 90% of the jobs I have booked has been based on my connections, more so than the actual talent and what I've brought into the room, because everyone is connected in this industry. And whether that's the people you are auditioning with, the director, the choreographer, the accompanist, the person in the holding room, like whatever, like they're all connections, and they can all make or break your audition experience. And even if they don't hire you, that doesn't mean you're not making a connection with them. One story I really like to tell is that when I worked for RWS in the summer of 2019, I had sprained my ankle that audition season. So in March of 2019, I sprained my ankle, and it was getting to the end of audition seasons and I still didn't have a job. So I was kind of freaking out because I wasn't able to dance and I didn't really know what I was gonna do, and I really wanted to book a job for the summer. Well, I had auditioned for RWS at that point 12 times in one audition season, and they had another audition coming up right when I sprained my ankle that I was super excited about. So I went in anyway for my 13th try, and the director had known me at this point. She'd seen me so many times and called me back so many times, but the jobs had just never worked out. And she was like, Brianna, you need to go home, you need to rest, you shouldn't be here. And I honestly told her, I was like, I want to be here, please let me audition. So she did, and I ended up booking that job. I'm fully convinced that job, working with those people, has helped book me my job at Legoland, because those people were connected, and it's just crazy. Make connections. Like, if I can leave you with anything, please make connections with people in this industry. That's all the tips I have for breaking into the entertainment industry, specifically in New York. So if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure to comment down below what you thought so I know how to make some good content in the future, and hit that subscribe button because it helps me out so much. You can also follow me on Instagram at Graf100 to stay up to date on my latest content there. Also add TikTok at Graf100, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!